Let's talk about AI. It's reshaping our world, but with all that power comes some pretty serious risk. So how do we actually control it? Well, today, we're going to break down a really clear framework for building trust in the AI that's becoming a bigger and bigger part of all of our lives. And this quote right here, it really hits the nail on the head. AI can do incredible things, solve huge problems, boost productivity, but that power is always balanced against the risk of things going sideways. The bottom line here is that these risks aren't some far-off theoretical thing. They're real, and they need to be actively managed. Yeah, and when I say risks, I'm not being dramatic. We're talking about real-world stuff that has already made headlines. This isn't science fiction, you know? It's the challenge that organizations are facing right this second. Let's just take a quick look at how fast things can go completely off the rails. So remember TAIM, Microsoft's AI chatbot? It was designed for friendly, casual conversation, but it got totally corrupted by trolls online in less than 24 hours. It started spouting all kinds of racist and inflammatory garbage. It was a total perfect storm of unintended consequences. And then you have this whole problem of AI hallucinations. There was this now famous case where a lawyer used ChatGPT for legal research, and it just made things up. It confidently invented completely fake legal cases. And this shows a huge risk, right? An AI can sound so sure of itself, so convincing, even when it's just plain wrong. Misinformation from AI can also spread like wildfire. A single, fake, but very believable picture of an explosion at the Pentagon was enough to cause a dip in the stock market. I mean, think about that. One fake image created a real-world financial ripple. It just shows you how high the stakes are for our stability.
But maybe the most important part of all this is the human cost. When flawed facial recognition software leads to someone being wrongfully arrested, that's not just a little tech glitch. It's a real person whose life gets turned upside down. When you're talking about people's lives, the stakes just couldn't be any higher.
Okay, so after all that doom and gloom, you're probably thinking, how on earth do we move forward? It feels like walking through a minefield. Well, we need a guide, right? A compass. And that's exactly where a solution like the Trusted AI Model or the TAIM framework comes into play.
And really, this is the big question for any company, government, or group using AI today. How do you get all the benefits without falling into one of these traps? How do you build something that you, your customers, and everyone else can actually trust?
The vision behind this whole framework is pretty clear. It's not about stopping AI. It's about building guardrails. It's a great metaphor, right? Think of a highway. You want the cars to go fast. That's the innovation. But you absolutely need those guardrails to keep them on the road and prevent a disaster.
So this TAIM framework gives us those guardrails using 4 really clear steps, or domains. First, you govern. You set the rules. Then you map, so you can understand the terrain. Next, you measure to check performance. And finally, you manage, where you actively steer the thing. Let's dive into each one. All right, first up, we've got the first 2 pieces of the puzzle, govern and map. You can think of this as all the prep work. This is the stuff you absolutely have to do before you even think about building the AI.
So let's start with govern. This is basically about setting the rules of the game for your organization. You're creating clear policies and defining what's okay and what's not. But maybe the most important part, deciding who is accountable, who gets the credit when things go right, and, more importantly, who's on the hook when they go wrong.
Okay, but what does that actually look like? We're not talking about some policy document that just sits on a shelf collecting dust. No way. Real governance is all about the people. It means properly training your teams on AI risks, giving them the authority to actually do something, and making sure everyone, from the newest developer to the CEO, knows the rules of the road. Okay, after you govern, you've got a map. I like to think of this as your reconnaissance mission. Before you ever deploy an AI, you need to map out the entire landscape. Who's it going to affect? What are all the ways this could go wrong? What are the social impacts, the technical ones, everything? And a perfect example of mapping is digging into your entire AI supply chain. See, your AI doesn't just appear out of nowhere, right? It's using third-party data, open-source models, all kinds of software. Mapping means identifying the risks in every single link in that chain, from potential copyright issues to hidden biases in the data you're feeding it.
All right, so you've set your rules, you've mapped out the territory, now it's time to actually get to work. And that brings us to our next 2 domains, measure and manage. This is all about ongoing evaluation and active control once the AI is up and running. The measure domain is really where the rubber meets the road. You can't just cross your fingers and hope your AI is fair, safe, and accurate. You have to prove it. And that means rigorous, repeatable testing to make sure the system is actually doing what you designed it to do.
A really critical example here is measuring for fairness. Remember those wrongful arrests from the biased facial recognition we talked about? This step is exactly how you prevent that kind of disaster. It means you are actively testing to see if your system performs worse for certain groups. You're writing down the results, and you keep doing it as the model changes over time.
And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle: manage. This is the active, hands-on part. You take everything you learn from your measurements and you build a concrete plan to handle the risks. The whole point is to have a strategy ready before something bad happens, not after.
And you know what a huge part of manage is? Human control. Think of it like having a big red button. Who has the authority to push that button and turn the AI off if it starts going haywire? What's the protocol? A truly trustworthy system is one you can pull the plug on.
So when you bring it all together, govern, map, measure, and manage, you start doing something really important. You move beyond just using AI to actively building trustworthy AI. And really, that's the whole goal. And believe me, the difference is night and day. Without a framework, you're just playing whack-a-mole, right? Constantly reacting, putting out fires, dealing with chaos. But with a framework like this, you get ahead of the game. You become proactive, structured, and responsible.
And at the end of the day, that's what a governance model like TAIM really offers. It gives you a roadmap, a clear path to take you from that chaos to real control, letting you innovate with confidence because you're turning those potential risks into managed, responsible outcomes.
So all this leaves us with one last big question. When you really think about these 4 steps, govern, map, measure, and manage, you have to ask yourself, is my organization truly ready to govern its AI?